Welcome to You Ask 502, the podcast where real stories meet real skills from the plumbers, pipe fitters, and service techs of Local 502. I'm your host, Ryan Kleber. This isn't just another trades podcast. It's our story, told by the people who live it every day. From apprentices to seasoned journeymen, we're talking shop, sharing lessons, and highlighting the wins and challenges of life in the field. With over 25 years in the trade, I've seen a lot, and I'm here to bring those experiences and yours to the mic. We'll cover everything from technical tips and union updates to job site stories and career advice. So subscribe, tune in, and be part of the conversation. This is US 502, powered by Local 502, driven by you. All right, welcome to the next edition of US 502. Joining me today is Jason Cruz. Jason, what's going on?
Nothing much, man. Happy to be here.
Well, I'm happy to have you here. So it's Jason kind of reached out to me a few weeks ago about wanting to do a podcast, and he sent me some topics to go over. So this will probably be the first of many, but you want to kind of shed light on what you want to talk about?
Yeah. So when we talked about doing a podcast initially, I was like, it's not my thing.
Right.
Obviously.
It's not most people's thing.
every time the advertising is around, it's like, hey, do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? I kind of turned you down. But I was thinking about the podcast, and I was thinking about what would be worth it to the members to sit down and have a conversation and hear something about.
All right.
And that's kind of how I framed it. So I came up with a couple ideas. One of them is kind of a personal thing for me.
Okay.
I think it affects everybody, and it's health. It's really physical health, mental health, in a trade that doesn't really value those things. I thought it would be an interesting conversation.
I like it. So, I mean, you piqued my interest as soon as you said health, mental, physical. More physical than mental, but I do like, where you're going with this. So yeah, I love it. Go for it.
Yeah. So just a little bit of backstory. I haven't told this to a lot of people, just a few. I was actually admitted to the hospital last year. Few days.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Like I said, it's not something I feel like felt like I cared to talk about.
Okay.
So just for those that don't know, I'm 41 years old. I've been doing this for 21 years now. So, 40 is about when everything starts to fall apart.
Yeah.
Pretty
real
much.
Quick.
So, I went to get a tooth pulled. I had a really bad toothache. Go to the dentist office, and my blood pressure was something like 250 over 160. Pretty high for anybody who doesn't know. Go to the dentist office. There's like, we can't pull your tooth. Your blood pressure's too high. You need to go to the emergency room. So I said, no. I went to the wellness center.
Mm-hmm.
I had them take my blood pressure again. It was just as high, about the same. They said, you need to go to the emergency room. I was like, man, I got too much going on today. I ain't going to no emergency room. I went to Arby's. This is no joke.
Okay.
And got lunch because I was starving. And I'm sitting there eating, and I was like, just go to the emergency room. So I go to the emergency room, try to spend the next several hours in the emergency room.
Yeah, they like to let you linger for a while in there.
Well, they couldn't get my blood pressure down, couldn't get my blood sugar down. I had a bunch of other health stuff too.
Right.
Go there, and then I get admitted to the hospital. Anyway, long story short, I go through this whole process, come out of it with a bunch of pills. Everything was out of whack.
Yeah.
Blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, all that stuff's out of whack. And I go through this whole, I don't say journey, but it was kind of this journey of wellness. You know what I mean? Trying to get myself better.
Mm-hmm.
Had lost weight and getting my A1C, which is
you look good. I was going to say,
yeah, thank you.
I can tell you shed some weight here lately.
Yeah, well, let's see. People say, man, you lost weight, and I just say drugs. Well, that's really more true than it sounds. It is the medication for the diabetes. It's the cholesterol medication. It's eating right in terms of trying to get that stuff in order. And it would have ended there, right, as a personal story. Except, when you talk to people, and it doesn't really matter, young or old or whoever, you kind of hear the same story in construction over and over again. What happens inevitably is that we all just go and go and go until we hit a wall.
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about mental health, maybe we're self-medicating with alcohol or drugs. Maybe we're, we're working too much and we hit this burnout wall. Maybe it strains our families or whatever, and we just keep going. Or maybe we have a heart attack, or maybe we have some accident at work, or maybe something happens.
There's usually a catalyst that kind of projects you off into the path you're on.
Right.
So,
And so you've seen this over and over and over again, and there are plenty of people out there who take care of themselves, to do the right thing, understand the importance. But I think we live in a culture in construction that doesn't value that.
No.
They don't. It's not that our contractors or the union or our friends don't care that we're healthy. The people we go to work with every day, they don't care that we're healthy. It's that it's not important.
Yeah.
It's get the job done.
Well, it's one of them things most people assume is on you to take care of. So, and to an extent it is, but yeah, I know what you're saying. As you push and push and push until you break, and then there's really no resolution except, throw you on a bunch of pills, or you just cope with it yourself, which, as you're going through that at work, people don't even realize you're going through some things at home as well. So you're getting it on both sides, and it's it's a tough road to climb. It's a tough hill to ditch to climb out of, I guess is what you would say.
Yeah, man. And you don't really know you're in it.
Yeah.
Until you hit that wall.
And sometimes the mental doesn't even start till the physical falls, and then it's how you get affected by it, and it's rough.
It is, man, and it's so interconnected.
Yeah.
Your mental health, your physical well being. We kind of talked beforehand about longevity in the trade. And safety gets, I don't want to say crammed down our throat, but we hear so much about safety. Do the people that are cramming us down our throat really understand or care about our safety? And then,
well, are they doing it because they really care? Which I think some people do, but also if it wasn't for lawsuits and insurance, I mean, you know what I mean? If it was 50 years ago and, you weren't, beholden to some kind of, litigation, you know what I mean? Then I don't think, safety's it's been made prevalent by, being put in bad situations and lawsuits and stuff like that. So,
right. One of the things we talk about with safety in class, in the foreman's training class, something that I've kind of incorporated is, micro, dirty jobs.
Dirty jobs, yeah.
So he had this thing back in 2009. It's called Safety Third, and you may have, like with the COVID, they had the what are they called, the Gators, with Safety Third on. You may have seen that, and the more I talk to people about it, I hear more and more people have kind of heard this idea.
Okay.
And the thing about Safety Third is, if you're constantly told that safety's number one, you sort of get complacent. One, you can't believe it.
Yeah.
Because when you go to work every day and you're doing something dangerous, you can't believe that safety's first. Because if it was really first, you wouldn't do anything.
Well, that's true. You live in a bubble. Yeah.
Certainly one aspect of safety third, not the whole thing, but I guess it speaks to the complacency that we get. And when you think about our physical health, we have all kinds of rules. OSHA has rules about, you pick something up and you carry it. If it's over 50 pounds, you need somebody to help you. If it's over 80, you need a mechanical advantage, right? You need a tool to help you pick it up. Do the math. How much does a piece of 4-inch pipe weigh?
More than 80 pounds.
And how many times you put one on your shoulder and carry it up the ladder with another guy?
Many times as I could. Yeah.
Right. And so it's easy to.
It was a game to see if you could do it by yourself when you're young. It's like, I don't need no help, And it's like, look at this asshole climbing a 6-foot ladder on the wrong side with a piece of 4-inch on his shoulder.
Right.
But you got props for it. But yeah, I know what you're saying.
And even to the mental health aspect of it, construction's not. It's a transient trade. Like, you don't typically, for most people in construction, not union, non-union, pipe fitter, plumber, service, whatever, you're never in one place.
Right.
You're here and for the duration of the project, and then you go to another place, and maybe that contractor keeps you, or maybe they lay you off. That plays a real psychological game with you, to where you don't, that stability, your stability and your normal is constant change. Some people are built for it. Some people can't survive this trade because of it.
Yeah, I've noticed you can go 2 different ways with that, or 3 different ways actually. Either you're built for it and you're just rolling with it, or I guess you can't ever get at ease because, either you go through life like go through your career like not expecting a home. So you're almost like, I guess you don't really put forth the effort because you're like, they're going to get rid of me anyway, or you're literally distraught every time you are laid off because you give so much. And so, like you said, there's the person who's like, cool, on to the next one. There's one who's like, well, they're going to let me off anyway, F them. And then there's people who are literally like, I can't believe, so it's.
Right. situationally, but when you think about mental health too, if you're going to the same place every day, you're seeing the same people over and over again, you're in the same conditions every day. When something's not going right with you, people notice.
Oh yeah.
They say, "Hey, what's up, man?"
Yeah. Okay?
And that happens on jobs too.
Yeah.
When people know you pretty well enough, you'll see that in somebody might see it in you. But you create this sort of like evolving, changing, constant landscape to where you basically you get wired a certain way. You don't take care of yourself. You don't see this. How many young guys have you talked to that go, "Man, I ain't gonna live that long anyway."
Oh yeah.
And it's not because they don't want to live. They don't want to live a full, long life. It's because they don't have anything grounded.
Yeah.
And that changes for all of us. Maybe you find somebody, you get married, whatever. That
Changes the catalyst. Yeah. You get a family, and it's like, all right, now I got to wake up.
Right. And you find yourself grounded in certain ways, but you just see it so often. And I guess my point here today, or the reason we're having this conversation, is not to like change anybody's mind, but it's to just talk about something that I don't think gets talked about. Personally, like the physical aspect of it, I'd share that story that was something that happened to me. Right, pretty unique. The more you talk to people, it's not terribly unique.
No,
but that's the thing too. I think it's just everybody kind of goes through things their own way, and it's okay to say, "Hey, man, this ain't great. I don't feel good today." It's not okay to lay down, or you know what I mean, but it's okay to say, "Man, I ain't right. I don't feel right," and maybe having a conversation. If somebody sees it and feels that, then maybe they can go to work tomorrow and their buddy says, "Hey, man, what's up? What's up with you? What's going on?" And then maybe they can say, "You know what? Yeah, here's what's going on."
Yeah. Sometimes it's good to get it out.
And there's so much pride too.
There is.
You can't admit you're hurt.
Yeah.
You can't admit you're in pain. That means you're weak.
Yeah.
Sometimes, not always, but sometimes it means you're weak. It means that dude can't handle this. Why not? I'm handling it.
Yeah.
Talk about my
why
crap.
can't he do it? Yeah.
You know what I mean?
My back hurts.
Right.
My back does hurt, but yeah.
Mine too. Most of the time.
It just never goes away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's actually, it's pretty resounding. And I think most people in the local and, whoever listens to this, most people in general can understand that, even if you're in an office, you know what I mean? Or nurses or anyone, doctors. I think, like you said, it's a lot of pressure going on, and people aren't exactly open to letting people know what's going on in their head. The physical aspect I've always thought is, like how much better do you feel now that you're in, better shape, better physically? I mean, that alone is going to change your mental, just looking in the mirror and being like, okay, that definitely ups your what's the word I'm looking for? It'll come to me, but either way, it'll up that a little bit too. Dopamine, that little hit you get when it's like, all right, when you're actually put forth effort and you see the success, you know what I mean? You get that little hit.
But for me, that took a year. That's no joke. Not to lose weight, the weight fell off pretty quickly. But to get my eating right. So, how many guys in trucks, how many foremen stop at the gas station in the morning, grab a couple of energy drinks, some beef jerky, and then at lunch we ain't got no time, so we're gonna run some fast food, or maybe we stop at the restaurant. Hell, maybe we can get a beer, whatever. Come on back, and then after work on the way home, maybe they go home and got somebody cooking for dinner. Maybe they got to go home and cook dinner, or maybe they're stopping again. Yeah, right. And it's terrible for you. What do you do?
And they probably smoke or dip on top of it. And so it's like, oh man.
You work out of your truck. That's your office. If you're a foreman, the guys, but being on a job ain't no different. If you went to the same place every day, that had the same break room and the same fridge and had the same microwave, you know exactly what you could take to work, right? And you take it until you got tired of it and you'd switch it up, but right? And you wouldn't say, all right, man, I got to eat out. I got this. How many guys? Everybody lives out of a lunchbox. If
and they get told. And then everyone leaves and you're the only one in the break room by yourself. And it's like, well, I'll go out today. Oh, it was fun. I'll go out tomorrow. The next thing you know, you're back in the habit. And it takes you about a week to get it back. But it's constantly that battle of, because you're right. You don't have time to sit down and have a good meal. I don't even know if they make good meals anymore that aren't home cooking or that aren't, $80 a plate. You know what I mean? Like it's all, shit food with shit ingredients because
packed with sodium and everything else. It's terrible for you.
Terrible for you. So, yeah, I mean, that's a big deal. I mean, that's, definitely change your perspective on a lot of things.
Yeah, I mean, and I see these guys too, because I was one. I am one. I was one. I am one. Burnout.
Mm-hmm.
I've been through that a couple times. It's a really, really difficult thing, especially the first time when you don't really know you're burnt out. When you're going through the motions, you're just tired, and you're going and like you're 100%. I was talking to a guy the other day. When you're going through and you're living with that burnout, it's not that you're not giving 100%. It's that your 100% is now 80%, and you can't help it. You've given everything.
Yeah, you can't break that threshold anymore because you don't have that extra gear in you.
Right. It's just it. You do.
Sometimes it's mentally. Sometimes you're just like, I can't. Physically, you can do it, but mentally, you're like, I just don't have the desire to.
Yeah. And it's like you said, it's a two-way street. When you're feeling better, maybe mentally you feel better, but when you're mentally down, I don't care how big and strong and tough and fast and all that crap you are. Oh, yeah. When you're mentally not feeling, you're having I'll tell any weightlifter out there, I mean, you're having a bad mental day, you have a bad workout.
Oh, yeah.
And
that's why pre-workout is like the number one supplement over everything, like steroids, the shot. I mean, anything like pre-workout is, that's a $1 trillion industry because I need to feel like a psycho going in here.
And how about them guys stopping in the morning, getting them Monsters and Red Bulls?
Oh, God, I used to be one of those guys. I used to just mainline it.
Yeah, man. Because it keeps you going. It keeps you just
come out shot out of a cannon, then it's like, woo, and then you crash, then you get another one. Then you don't sleep at night, which that is the number one thing. That's something I want to talk about. I've been through so many journeys on fitness and health and trying to get right. You go with the fads and, then you start doing some stuff like, but really it all boils down to getting enough sleep at night. That is the number one thing. Don't eat right before you go to bed. Try to quit drinking a couple hours before you go to bed and just see what happens. It'll change your life. You'll wake up feeling like a new person. I mean, it is so much better. And because that's everything. I mean, you could do everything wrong and sleep and still be pretty even with someone who does everything right but gets 2 hours a night.
That's when your body heals itself, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and it can't do it. And it can't actually properly sleep if you go to bed on a full belly, then your body's trying to digest. And then it can't do the other things it needs to do when it's sleeping. So you never hit that REM. I mean, that's a whole other podcast probably. But I'm just saying, that sleep is very important. And that's something I just pushed off forever. And now I'm like really made it paramount. Like, about 10 o'clock, like, we need it, unless we're doing something. But I mean, generally, not just staying up to stay up.
And I think too, first thing that popped into my head when you say sleep is a great point. I think about guys working like 7-12s, working all this overtime, working 6-10s or whatever. And were they hitting out there at Meta, some of them 6-10s?
6-10s, with spotty Sundays.
Right. And that's one thing, and that does drain you physically.
It does.
It makes it. It doesn't even make it easy. You think, it's easier to sleep. No, because you still got all your obligations.
Yeah.
To your family or to whoever else after you leave work, all your responsibilities. So it doesn't. It just drains you even more. It makes it even harder.
And you still got to be husband and dad when you get home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can't like, I work 7-12, so it's like I can't. It's like you still got to,
Right.
Then you got to have a little time with your wife, or else you just,
Right. I mean, that's where them divorces come in.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, really, all these guys do it all the time. And it's like, you got this house and you got the lake house and the boat and the, she's got a, Land Rover and you got the 250, on 22.
How many guys it takes them a marriage or two to figure that out?
Yeah. And then it's like, but I got to keep working. And it's like, but then you're never home. So she's lonely. And it's just like, well, it's for nothing.
Yeah. And that's one aspect that even worse than I think that is the stress.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think we realize, I don't think a lot of us realize the stress that we put on ourselves. So I was super lucky. A couple years ago, I was able to, I got an opportunity to go into the office to do CAD design stuff. And I didn't realize, so I was sitting at a desk, and I'm sure I'll get made fun of for that, but sitting at a desk, the first 3 or 4 months were like me realizing how bad my back hurt, how bad my feet hurt, how bad my knees were bothering me, how bad my shoulders,
oh yeah,
it's what it is. I mean, I played volleyball 4 or 5 days a week and worked out, lifted weights,
Right.
Constantly, especially a pretty heavy for a period of years. So I did my body no favor on top of the work. I did my body no favors to get there. And now I'm, living that dream, what I'm saying? I'm sitting at a chair and things kind of stopped hurting as much.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the biggest things I noticed was because of the position I was able to get. It wasn't. I wouldn't suggest project management for less stress. I wouldn't suggest estimating to have less stress.
Right.
But because
it's different kind of stress. Yeah.
Right. The situation I was in, I wouldn't suggest business agent for less stress or business manager for less stress. But the position I was in, I was less stress, and that was like, oh crap, like it hit me, like it was like, oh my god, then this is before all of last year. That's when I realized how bad I felt. How much you take on yourself as a foreman, and it doesn't have to be a foreman, as a hand or in general. When you're working the 610s and you can't be there for your family the way you want to be, that's stress.
Yeah.
You're working 40 hours a week and you're dealing with anything, that's stress, and you don't realize, and you want to break a deep rim, when you can't. That's a huge factor, and we don't kind of acknowledge that, I think, a lot of times.
True. True. Well, that gets back to the tough guy thing. Like, well, this is just the way it's done. This is how America was built. And it was. If you don't value human life at all, then you can build anything. Pyramids, railroads, skyscrapers, but I mean, it's, things have changed. I mean, it's definitely been more where, even like I used to do the nuke circuit, for a little 6-year run on the road. And I mean, it would be as much as you could take, I mean, how much rad you can get. I mean, everyone just knocks himself out on their TLD, tilsometer. I mean, as much radiation as you can get in a year, as many hours you can get. I mean, whatever it takes, because they were just throwing money at you. And, you would sit for 3 hours and they call it a jump, and you jump for 3 hours and you go in there and work, next to, gamma radiation or whatever for however long it took to get the welds done. Then you go back and swap. But I mean, now they have it to where you have to have a day off, unless it's like I guess critical path, unless like we're talking about a meltdown, then your life doesn't matter anymore. But up until something like that, then it's like, hey, so everyone gets a day off, and they've actually instituted to where the day before your day off is time and a half, and the day after your day off is double time, to keep people, because before, we're like, well, I'm not going to come to nukes anymore if I don't get it. So you got to entice them if they're not doing per diem. So they started doing that. And then, even forward, how fast can you get it done? It used to be 712s for 6 months out there. And now it's like, how much pull ahead can we do? And I'm sure some of that has to do with profit and, keeping costs down, but still before it was like, and I don't see there's really many injuries out there as there used to be back when we were young. You know what I mean? I used to notice a lot of people getting nicked up just from exhaustion, just from being there all the time. I mean, so you don't really see, they almost try to run you out unless you're PM or something and you have a trailer, but.
And I've wondered, because I feel like, especially, I'm super grateful to have the opportunity to teach down at the school, and I got to teach like a first year class over the summer. I'm teaching a 5th year class now. It's kind of cool to see everybody in different kind of stages of their apprenticeship.
Yeah.
And to your point about, it seems like it's better, because it really does. I don't think you can be an instructor down at the school and not be optimistic, because you don't always get along with everybody, and I'm sure there's some apprentices out there that would say that about me. But we've got so much talent. We're getting young talent. We've got good people in there, and you see it down at the school. You get to see everybody. You're not seeing this one thing on this one job. And so I hope things are getting better, but I wonder if it's not that I'm just in a different place. I've wondered that quite a bit.
Well, probably a little bit of both. I will say some things with the changes. There's always as many positives as you get. There is a negative. And I think this generation of young men and women are definitely losing the grit to, stick through some things. Now, was it healthy to stick through it? I don't know. But I feel like it definitely, made you appreciate things a little bit more, made you, there's a whole generation here that has no clue what 2008 was.
Right.
and they're just like, just wandering through. And, of all the good, great men and women we have, there's a percentage who just don't give an F about anything. And I'm like, man, one of these days, it's going to come down and bite you in the ass that you just, you don't have, as soon as it's hard, it's like, I got to get out of here, or this is boring, or it's like, and sometimes just be appreciative for what you got. Not all the time, but just, some instances.
And I think it's okay to wonder about it, especially, we're pretty close, same age.
Yeah.
You've been a little longer than me, but
a couple years, 3 or 4 years, maybe. Yeah.
And I think you and I came through at a time. I was laughing. I try to tell the apprentices, when my dad came through 70s, or my dad came through in the late 80s, but my uncle came through in the 70s, 80s, and even the 90s, like how different apprentices were treated.
Yeah.
The stories of the apprentice, you've heard them all, getting thrown off the roof, getting
which we're not condoning that. I'm not saying.
Absolutely not. But the skillet welded, and that was like their generation. And I wonder, could I have made it? I don't think. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I feel like I would.
Oh, I'd probably do a fit. Someone threw me off a roof, but
what
But that's generally not what happened. We're talking about 4 or 5 apprentices,
right? And then you take it kind of, I think, sort of a little bit later, and kind of what you and I went through, which was really those guys who lived that, and kind of their mentality was just a little bit different. It wasn't quite as violent,
brutal. Yeah,
it wasn't.
Yeah,
but they had that old school
they expected more, and they expected you to take it, but they weren't giving it like they were giving. You know what I mean? It's like
yes.
So
and the whole
kind of like our parents to us, and now that we have kids, it's like, well, I never had a PS5. My kid's gonna have a PS5, and I'm like, all right, he does, but is that really glued to an iPad or a gaming system since he's 5 years old? Is that really what's best? When we were outside, I don't ever see kids playing outside anymore. I know we're veering off a little bit, but I mean,
I don't think so.
You know what I mean? It's like, shit. Every time I see kids playing in the yard, I'm like, oh my God, it's like I see more deer in my neighborhood than kids playing in the yard. So I used to always go get the wife and we saw a deer, and now it's like, it's just a deer. Now it's like, oh, there's 2 kids. It's like, they know how to throw. Like, it's crazy.
But it is. And I think too, is what, we're going to get into that. We're quickly approaching that age where it's going to be, where we're like,
keep it down over there,
but the apprentices, these younger apprentices that expect this work-life balance. And I think we kind of hit on it a little bit.
Yes.
That's something that I have really struggled with, not because I don't believe in work-life balance. I'm here talking to you about health, mental health. And I care, I think those are important. I think they're underserved things in our profession.
Yeah.
Right. When you think about work-life balance though, does work-life balance mean I don't want to be here today, so I'm going to go home?
That's what you run into.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And you do, right. And you how do you say to somebody, no, like
you have responsibilities, and then,
right.
I'm not asking you to stay here 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, but can you give us 40? That's right. How the job was bid. We, again, there's always exceptions, and, for every example we throw out, someone can throw one right back, and it's like, but in general, it's like, man,
I think we have in our trade, in our region, in this period in time, this exceptionally good problem.
Yeah.
Right. Where we have so much work.
Yeah.
I don't even know how many people on the list that don't want to be.
That don't want to be? Yeah. Very few.
Right.
Very few. Usually they were on there for a reason, and now they're ready to go back. But
were you booming out in 2008, 9, 10? Were you out on the road then?
Yeah, that's when I was out. So 06 was the first time I left to go to Lehigh, Utah, and I was gone for, till about 12, 13.
So when I was so about that time, so a little later, like I said, I've been quite as long as you, it was 2010, 2011-ish. I want to say, and you might remember better than I do, there were 436 people on the books, 400 something. I don't know why 436 keeps ringing, but I was plus 400.
It was plus 400. Scott always talks about it because he had just became an agent then, and he's always like, because I was always freaking out when there's like 100. I'm like, oh my God, there's like 120, and he's like, bro,
and that
you ain't seen nothing yet.
Plus 400 of 1,800.
Yeah.
Not under 50 of
2,700.
Right. Excuse me.
It's crazy.
It is. And so this is this excellent problem to have. But I think what happens in good times, or what I feel like I'm seeing, is a couple different things. But to the point that we're talking about today is that because times are good, we're not seeing problems. And that doesn't mean those problems went away. It doesn't mean that people aren't carrying these loads. It doesn't mean that people aren't, dealing with these issues. It just means, well, I can quit. I can go on to the next place.
Right.
I'm not confronting the issue that I actually have. I'm
Right.
just moving on.
Yeah.
That's, so we have this wonderful problem, but it doesn't make it not a problem.
Well, and what's to say that, people wouldn't have moved on back in, 06, 08 if they had the option. The option wasn't there to go. So it's like, well, I got to stick it out. You know what I mean? And it's like, and I don't know, I guess daycare wasn't, $1,500 a month either for 2 kids,
Sure.
which is like, oh my God. So now everyone's got to work. Who's raising? Well, anyway, it's a whole other podcast. We can really go down a rabbit hole there, but yeah, it's, you're right. I mean, there's just a lot of stressors. So to your credit and to what you're saying, there is a lot of issues that are blinded by the exceptional amount of work we have right now. They kind of mask it a little bit.
Right. And I'd be remiss if I didn't bring this up, and it's something that I've been kind of reluctant to talk about, but, Walker Mechanical last year lost someone that I think meant a lot to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Brian and I were friends, I would say, but wouldn't say we're terribly close. We didn't hang out and stuff on the weekends or things like that. But he was somebody who, if I feel like he and I were friends, it's because he made me feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
He was that person to a lot of people. He took care of his guys. He worked for them. He was a guy who had it all together.
Yeah. He took a lot home with him.
He did take a lot home with him, and there's no way for me to know anything that he had in he was carrying in his personal life and things like that, and that's not for me to know.
Right.
But that's another thing too. When times are really good, when work's booming and everybody's putting in hours and everybody's doing all this good stuff, that doesn't mean that people aren't carrying things. That's the other thing I wanted to bring up today. Is the 988, the suicide hotline, to really reach out.
Have you called that? And I'm not saying if you ever, but sometimes it's just just to see what they would say, because we always go there and do that. But I guess I've never really so I'm just giving them advice on something I've heard from some other people, but I probably need to call one day and just be like, listen, I don't really have an issue, but what exactly would you offer someone who did? By the end, they probably talked me into having an issue, but I mean, maybe I am sad, but it's
there might be a better way to go about that and call a representative of 988 so you're not taking up the phone.
True, but I mean, I guess it is kind of nice to figure out exactly what they what avenues, if there's counseling, or is it just someone hey man, we care about you, which is what a lot of those numbers were for back in the day. It was just listen, I'll be here to talk and listen as long as you need me to.
I definitely don't want to speak as an expert or somebody who knows something that someone else doesn't. That would be disingenuous,
mm-hmm.
and it's not what I want to do here. What I want to do, and my goal is, what I want to say to people is, if you hear this and it resonates with you, and of somebody who just doesn't seem right, or maybe they seem okay, or maybe you just haven't talked to somebody in a while, give them a call.
Yeah.
Friend from another job. If you're going through something and you don't know who to talk to or who to reach out to, call a friend. Text a friend. Something. Reach out. I think we've talked a lot about the different ways that things stay under the surface,
mm-hmm.
that don't get talked about, and that's really the crux of the whole thing. We hide it until something breaks.
Yeah.
And we can't do that. We can't afford to do that. And like I said, if somebody hears something or wants to talk to someone, just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it. What's the worst that could happen?
Well, I mean, no one's going to shun you. You may not get the undivided attention, but it's just sometimes just saying it. You know what I mean?
And you don't have to tell somebody everything.
Yeah,
if you're feeling a certain way, just reach out. That's a big thing.
What sucks is that usually where that goes for guys, I don't know about women, but it's let's go to the bar.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's all right, so now we're, I should be having a serious talk about what's going on. And then now we're doing shots. And it's so yeah, I don't know. I know what you're saying.
Carry on that thought, man, because you just nailed something about the culture that I didn't really hit on, but I wanted to. Carry on that thought.
It's hard to actually be real. and everyone's so busy. I mean, a lot of times you don't want to burden someone else with your stuff because we're all busy. And maybe that is why you see things like, with our mutual friend, it's like, I think, who did he have to talk to that would be able to give him his time and his attention? You know what I mean? And so you turn to a bottle or, medicine that, and it's just really, it's a slippery slope.
We do. We have this culture, and it's a male culture in general. I'm sure that's fine to say, but
It
we
is.
also have a culture in this trade and construction of you're either strong enough to do the job
Yeah.
or you're not.
Yeah. Don't be a bitch.
And
Yeah.
there ain't no gray area,
Yeah.
and it's just not true. It's just not true.
True.
You can carry things, and you can be burdened by things, and you can have problems in your life, and you can still be strong enough.
Yeah. True. I mean, mentally and physically. I mean, I think that
Mhm.
you don't need, I don't know, you don't have to be big and strong and, just, country boy strong to actually work in this trade anymore. I think there's a lot of positions, the computers and stuff. And when I was in the field, one of the few things I would pride myself on doing is I could always try to find someone, like you don't always have to be, a top notch welder. Like we need people to build the hangars. We need people to lay out, we need people to, use the model. And these older guys who, these old, gentlemen ogres, I would call them, who are like, I ain't using that shit. Cool.
Right.
I'll lay the stuff here. You just come out and shoot a laser, and so it's definitely the trade is more adaptive and open to everyone now. And you don't have to be just some big I don't know the word I'm
Well,
looking
I
for.
think the
Lughead.
argument that I've used, and I'm going to pick on somebody. I'm going to pick on Cody Lester because he's always my example.
All right.
Me and Cody worked together a long time, and I love that dude, man. And I got all the respect. He's one of the smartest people I know in the trade. And that's not an exaggeration. He really is. But if I expected Cody, if y'all don't know Cody, he's a
wee lad.
slight in stature, perhaps.
Yes.
Sorry, Cody. I don't think I'm telling you anything you don't know.
About the size of one of my legs.
But if I expected,
But he is a very sharp young man.
he is, and
Good
if I
welder.
expected him to be as strong as me, and I said, if you can't pick up what I can pick up, and I said, no, man, you ain't strong enough. I told him to go on. What have I lost? What have I? Not him. He didn't lose
Right.
nothing. He's going to go on to the next place where he's valued and be utilized.
Yeah.
I've lost something because I took somebody who's an incredible welder, an incredible layout guy, who's very sharp and understands his craft, and I've sent him on the way because he wasn't big enough.
Right.
And that's on me.
And that's a finesse. You know what I mean? You don't have to be a fullback. You can be a receiver. A shifty guy. You know what I mean? You don't have to be the the lughead, like I was saying,
Right.
like everyone was when we got in.
Yeah, man. I got into the trade when I got in as a first year, which you and I were on the very 1st job I was ever on. Down in the boiler house there at Floyd
Memorial. Yep.
Yeah. When I got in, I was looking around. I was like, man, these dudes are nuts. And I wouldn't talk about you and necessarily the other fitters. It's just everybody at a construction site are nuts.
It was a vibe.
Tweakers and all that stuff out there. And I was like, I got to get in the gym. And I was this little fat kid. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I don't remember that.
and I said, I got to get in the gym, man. I got to work out just because I don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
And that was my original motivation for really, I mean, I worked out in high school and stuff, but it was like, I've really got to figure this out.
Yeah. I can't be cornered. I got to be able to defend myself somehow.
Right.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean,
but the trades have adapted. You know what I mean? I mean, there's so much stuff on a computer and, and lasers and, you need more of a finesse now too. And they cram so much shit in a building. It's nothing like it used to be. It's like, hey, we could just run it down the hallway and it'd be great. No, we're going to put it in the room. Then we're going to put drywall up first too, that you got to go around. Have fun with that. Oh, don't wreck the drywall or that's just going to cost, and then you got, these guys who, the gentleman we speak of just going through and beat it with a hammer because they don't have the patience or the time.
Right.
When it's like, hey, listen, let's.
And everybody wants 13-foot ceilings and 1 foot of space between the drop ceiling and the top of the building.
And I know it works in the model, but that's not how life is. You know what I mean?
That's a conversation for another day, baby.
So, but I don't know. It's a lot of nuance to the trade that people don't understand. People outside the trade don't understand.
Yeah. And not to get too far off topic, but that is something too. Is we recruit these young guys, and our coordinators and stuff over there do a hell of a job. to get young people um, out of high school. We need that desperately for our pension. We need that just, you and I got in young, we bring a different
And generally,
skill
yeah,
set.
we don't skip, but also we generally don't go to the hospital that much. So all that money we're throwing into health
Right.
and welfare to help it out, we're not even burning it up, until later in life.
And we do need a mix of older guys who have got experience with, think professionals or just people in general who've had some time. And we need those young guys. And our coordinators are doing a hell of a job bringing those guys in. Those
But they only
people
get them
in.
for 206 hours.
Well, I guess
If I said
we're,
that number right.
yeah, over at
206,
the
yeah.
school. Sure. My point is, though, I guess what I'm getting at is there was this stigma. Again, I think we're getting off a little bit, but there was a stigma. If you're not a good student and you're not good in school, go into construction, which is just the wrong message. It's absolutely incorrect. You talk about
Yeah.
the way the trades have changed,
Mm-hmm.
and how much we have to use math and how much if you want to understand how a system works, you need to understand physics, you need to understand science, and
I'd say there's a lot of our guys who have no clue how a boiler works.
probably,
They just know,
probably not.
but they'll put it in exactly like the print says, and it'll look amazing. And assuming the engineer did his job right, everything's good. But the valued engineering we used to have, because no one really understands steam and hydraulics very well.
Right.
You know what I mean? So,
but it's more important now to have people who
yeah,
can think these things through, who can figure it out
yeah.
and understand. Again, that's kind of off the subject.
Well, not really. It's all tied into the mental aspect, because that's just one more thing you got to pick up and run with too.
Right.
So
it's true.
Yeah, man. There's a lot of aspects of the trade, and but like anything else, I can relate a lot of stuff to sports because everyone watches sports. But I'm like, if you're going to be in the top of your game, you're expected to go out on Sundays and play your ass off. No one cares your ankle hurts. I traded you in fantasy. I need my 30 points. You know what I mean? And
Right.
So it's like, but the owners of these companies, and not be a big owner advocate, but I mean, it's like they're running a business. The GCs who hired the contractors. It's like we need everyone to kind of come in and be firing on all cylinders.
Yeah.
So whatever it takes, I guess, to be a professional, and what it takes to be a professional every day. And not every day is your best day, but you should always strive to be at your professional best every day. Fit for duty is what they call it in the streets, but just to be on point.
It really boils, for me personally, it boils down to 8 for 8, right? 8 for 8. If everybody on every job gave 8 for 8, there would be plenty of time for mental health.
Oh yeah.
There'd be plenty of time for physical health. There'd be plenty of time to do all this stuff. We lose so much somewhere else in other places
Mm-hmm.
that it's hard that it does feel sometimes difficult to make that argument for mental health. And that being said, we still can't, yes, 8 for 8. We got to preach that. That's got to be a big part of what we do. But I think we do that.
Yeah.
Right. I think we talk about that very well. I think we talk about the importance of showing up on time, being there. I think that is something that everybody knows. You got the UA standard for excellence. I'm trying to roll my eyes, but you got the UA standard for excellence. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's out there. That is prevalent.
Yeah.
How do we get more efficient on jobs? That's all prevalent. We talk and talk and talk all that stuff to death, and we should. It's important. But we don't talk about is sometimes what that grind can do to us. It can do to us physically, what we do to us mentally.
Yeah.
I think that is something that becomes secondary.
Yeah.
A lot of times. You could do a whole podcast on 8 for 8.
Yeah.
You could do a whole class. I could do a whole class on 8 for 8. I feel like I do it now.
Yeah. Well, but like I was saying, there's more to just playing the game. There's more to just being out there 4 quarters. It's actually doing positive work.
Yeah.
4 quarters. So yeah, so they're just laying around 8 for 8 and playing hide and seek for $1,000 a week. I mean, you really got to go in there and and this is what I've always preached. And I always tell the first years when we do the orientation and the 5th years when they turn out, I'm like, all right, now you're part of the elite, because that's really what you have to preach, and I'm a big union advocate, obviously, but I mean, the union was formed for the reason for workers' rights. Cause there was, if you watch history of union labor, I mean, back in the day, there's people held at gunpoint trying to go home for work. So, that's kind of how we started, but now, that's not the case because of, many laws. So it's not, so the union is more now like, we're here because of safety. We're here because of professionalism. We're here because of education. So we have to bring that because, we do cost exorbitantly more than everyone else. So you have to, you got to bring it. I mean, you can't give, C+ work for A+ pay. and not, like I said, every day he's going to, we're all going to have a bad day. That's just part of it. Something's going to happen, headache, cold, just one of those days, but those got to be the minority, not the majority.
Yeah. And, something we say fight for workers' rights and stuff like that. And the fight in the, late 1800s was a literal life and death fight.
They literally have guns on them, and they literally had pitchforks. Like
people died, and think the Carnegie and the Pinkertons, and the Haymarket Affair, and you go back to these events in history where people actually did lose their life for fighting for union labor, and the fight doesn't mean that, like you said, anymore. But there's still a fight. There still is a fight that exists, but we can't win that fight with anger and violence. We win that fight by showing up, by showing up for ourselves too, showing up for work and showing up for ourselves and taking care of ourselves and being there for each other. We talk about that a lot. We talk about brotherhood and we talk about this and that. And that's how we win the fight is that. Looking out for each other too.
Yeah. That is true. That is true. I am my brother's keeper. I mean, you got to be, it is something we lose sight of, but we're all in this together.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what kind of recommendations for a healthy lifestyle do you recommend? Let's get into the good part.
I don't know if I have any. I think I might be the worst person in the world to have recommendations.
So really, Jason's here. I'm going to pull this out, this elixir for $9.99. Right. You too can.
Right. That's what I'm pitching today. No, I guess if I had anything, if I advice, it would be, I'll tell you a story. I was talking to a young guy, 23 years old.
Okay.
And it kind of hit me really hard because at 23, nobody was telling me to go to the doctor. Didn't care, wasn't listening to it. And this young man was about the same boat. He goes, he's telling me, he's like, I don't even know how we got on the subject. My blood pressure was a little high. 23 years old, blood pressure a little high. Don't really mean nothing. I said, well, man, maybe you need to go and get it checked out. I don't know where he figured out his blood pressure. I said, maybe you need to go and get it checked out. He goes, nah, me and my buddies got this pact. We're not going to the doctor until we're 30. Like, all right, fair enough. But
where does that even? That sounds like a stoner pack. Like, who comes up with that?
So I'm sitting there and I've got this duality of thought, right? My one thought is, like, I get that. He said, I don't want to take pills for the rest of my life. I felt that way. I feel that way now.
I'm with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't want to take pills for the rest of my life. Don't want to go to the doctor. Go to the doctor. That's when they find out something's wrong. Right. So I have this duality of thought where I totally 100% agree with his feeling and was there. And the other side of me is on a sort of on the different side of maybe a coin. The same coin is of, yeah, but if you wait, and I'm so lucky. That's what's crazy about it is I'm not smart or talented, or I don't eat right. I don't take care of it's none of that. I got lucky. I got really, really lucky that I spent 20 something years taking zero care of myself outside of like the working out. And then when I was working out, I tried to count my macros and wasn't great at it. But you know what I mean? I wanted to bench more and I wanted to squat more and I wanted to deadlift more. Right. So, outside of that, I got super lucky that nothing happened. I didn't have a heart attack. I mean, when you think about your blood pressure being as high as mine was, at stroke level. Yeah. There's every reason to believe that you could have a stroke at that level. And nothing. It didn't happen. I got very lucky. So I have this like duality of thought of like, why wait until it breaks? Why wait until you hit that wall? Why wait till 30?
That's like saying I'm never going to change my oil till I hit 20,000 miles. It's like, why would you even? You
right.
could probably do it, but why would you?
And how do you tell a young guy that? How in a way that they'll hear you and listen. I was talking to ran into a guy, he's a block layer, late 40s, had to go to the hospital. This was a few months after mine, 6 months after mine, and still going through all my stuff and still trying to figure everything out. And he's like, yeah, man, I had really high blood pressure, and they sent me had to go to the hospital. It's like the same. It felt like the same, not entirely the same, but almost the same story. And I'm like, and he's telling me, he's like, everything happens for a reason. And, I think I don't really need to go to the doctor anymore, but maybe I'll just cut back on my drinking. I said, I'll tell you what, bud, I hate being preachy. Like, I guess I shouldn't say it that way. I don't want to come off as a person who's trying to like tell you how to live your life or tell you you should do this or that. That ain't my game.
Well, no, you're just
Uh,
offering friendly advice.
but I looked at that dude. I said, "Tell you what, do you really believe things happen for a reason?" He's like, "Yeah." I said, "Well, maybe the reason that you and I are sitting here talking today, because we're buddies or nothing, we're
Right.
around, we're in proximity to one another, is I just went through all this. Maybe the reason you sat here, and maybe the reason we're talking to each other today, is because maybe somebody wants to tell you, go,
Yeah.
go to the doctor." But we don't. We don't. We don't. We push it all to the end until we have to do something about it.
Yeah. Well, this would be a good segue to give a little love to our wellness center, because I will say this. Some things, well, whatever. I'm not going to get the cons, but the pros for sure is you can get the best blood panel you can get anywhere. I mean, like they will literally send it out and you will get back pages of data. Where if you just go to a normal doctor, I think insurance only covers 8 things, maybe 6 things. And I think they pull stuff off every year too, to where you almost got to go to a specialist to get all these other readings. But you can get a full, retrospective lab and literally know everything, to your tests, to your triglycerides, to your, words I've never even heard of. So, and and I go back and I say, thank you. Blood pressure was high because, I'm usually stressed most of the time, but but there's things you can do for that too. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to get on blood pressure medicine. You know what I did? I went and donated blood.
Right.
I did. I went and donated blood and I dropped like 30 on each level. Because it's just, you just get rid of the gel and let the new stuff in it, which that works. That's really good. And I'm not saying that's how you get rid of high blood pressure, but I'm saying, there's certain things you can do to.
I'm pretty sure they don't want my blood. I think there's too much stuff in it at this point.
I don't know. I'd probably give you a run for your money.
And that's the thing too. I think it's a slippery slope to sit there and say, this kind of diet or this sort of exercise routine or this sort of lifestyle change or this sort of holistic medicine or this sort of but go to the well. Just go. Just go there, get your blood panel. Just go.
Just get that and do with that what you will. Like you don't like.
Right.
I don't trust doctors. Cool. They're just going to read you. Your doctor doesn't even see it. Like Sandy will take it, or one of the nurses will take it, and they'll send it off, and then they'll just give you the paperwork, and they'll try to read it to you and say you should do this, this, this. You can just be a dick and be like, okay, cool, bye, and then go to Google or chat or whatever, and do that, or you can listen to them. I'm not saying not to. I'm just saying if you're that worried about it, but you still know.
Right.
It's like, I don't trust mechanics, but you have an on-site mechanic that you've already paid for. Let him run the diagnostics and then take it to your own person. If you don't, but either way, at least And if you're feeling bad or there's somewhere you can, because any kind, cancer, everything, if you catch it early, there's usually a pretty good road back.
Right.
That doesn't include, nuking your whole body. You can kind of,
And that's, again, like I said, just not that would be my thing.
At least get the blood panel. I can't recommend that enough.
And the alternative is maybe you go your whole life and you never have a health issue. And
hey,
and you never had to go, and you can tell everybody, no, I never needed that.
What's that? The old man from Grumpy Old Man? He's like, I eat bacon. And for lunch, I have bacon, and I drink my dinner. I'm like, hey, you can do that, and you can be 90, but it's still not,
Yeah, live as long as possible to draw that pension, and you're not going to hurt yourself by figuring out what's up.
Well, to that, I see a lot of guys who limp to the finish line. You know what I mean? And not the finish line in life, but the finish line in the, and it's like, I finally made it. I can retire. I can't work anymore. And I'm like, and now what? You can't do nothing. You know what I mean? You can't, not that you're bedridden, but you're painfully out of shape. You know what I mean? And then, it's like, and then they kind of get a little bigger too, because they're not and the only exercise they ever got was the few steps they took at work. And I'm like, well, how you really enjoying? It's like, I don't know, man. I just feel like, once you hit that age where you can actually go and retire, and it's like, I want to go see some shit. I want to do some shit. I want to go on a hike, swim in, go to Australia and swim. I want to jump off a waterfall. Which I don't know about, by the time these guys retired, might be 75. I'm just saying we still got him pretty good.
Yeah, no, yeah.
But
yeah, we did.
We can get out at 60 or earlier, but either way, you want to be in the best shape possible to go live your life because that's what you've worked for. It's like now you have You always like, if I only had just had steady income and I didn't have to go to work, all the things I could do. And then you have it, but now it's like, well, I'm too broke down to do anything with it. So now I'm just in and out of hospitals all the time because I never took care of myself. And that for me is what keeps me going. Is like, I really want to be able to enjoy the fruits of your labor.
Right.
I want to be able to, take my wife and go look at a sunset in, Italy or something and just be like, and walk and drink wine and, ride a Vespa.
I say what motivates me a lot of times is that paycheck at the end of the week.
Mm-hmm.
But that paycheck at the end of the week's got that little attached how many hours I work.
Yeah.
And it's that pension.
It's that pension.
And that's all, 17 years. I guess, you know what I mean? It's what I think about. It's why I'm here. Not why I'm here, but this trade and what keeps me here. And
that's the carrot. It keeps you going. You know what I mean? Is that, and that's a defined benefit pension. And I don't think the men and women, our younger really understand that. But I know the older generation does. And I know, our peers, who are real close, but, the young guys and gals coming in, like, y'all really need to, this is, and what we do, we took it a butt, back in 2006 on this pension, like where, we lost like 50, 60% in a year. So, we fought to get it back. We've been in rehab plan for, we've been in rehab longer than Keith Richards. We've been in this rehab plan forever. I think we're finally going to come out. I think we're sober.
Right.
So we're getting close. We're like 95% and it's trending in the right direction, which since I've been in, I'm 8 years now, they've always said, as you get closer, it's going to go faster because you're there, because you're compounding interest. 7% on 500 million is way more than 7% on 30 million. So when you start making these big, so now people do get in shape and start living longer, that may adversely affect the pension.
Right. So I still think it's a good thing.
It is still a good thing because I'd rather have that than.
We can always add more money to that pension.
Right. We'll figure it out. What do you think? Yeah. Not bad.
No, it was good. I appreciate it.
All right. We got some more topics coming up. Jason actually sent me some good stuff to talk. It's not just about work and, trust and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah. Do you want to give a recap on the market recovery while we're here, or you want to?
I don't think it'd make it past editing.
Probably not. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks, Ryan.
All right. See you guys.